Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am so pleased to be presenting the first panel here because I have this fantastic panel of people who come from very different industries, but they all have one thing in common, wherein they bring experiential to the fore. Now, what is experiential? When we were in the COVID pandemic, we all learned the joys of inside, and everything became digital. And as everything became digital, everything became personalized. And so as we stepped out, as it faded away, as we stepped out, we expected everything to continue in that same vein. And I think that brings us to experiential. So we have this amazing panel, and so I do have to mention Mr. Ashish Kaul is a very old friend of the company, and I will ask him about the exchange for media process. But then, of course, we also have Shradha Agarwal and Minal Srinivasan, who will, of course, bring their own sort of.
Is that? Yeah, that's right. Thank you. I think it was about 2002 when, is that the date right? 2002 was when we met Anurag for the first time in our office in Worli. And when we heard the idea, he said, "Yaar, ye aadmi kya naya leke aaya hai? Ye kya hai?" Back then, if you see 2002, the world was largely divided between the public broadcaster that Doordarshan was, and Z had made its inroads, and back then, and we were riding on the wave. And we thought that why do we need to know what is happening in the industry? We are the industry. अभी हम ही तो हैं जो बनाते हैं सब, हमको क्या करना कि ये क्या नया लेके आए. And trust me, it is today I can imagine, while I was hearing when Anurag was taking us through his journey and the kind of work that has happened, it is so difficult to be the first mover, and I relate him to Mr. Subhash Chandra, and both have a common trait. It is the ability to see what will happen in the future. And during my time only, I've seen that exchange for media became the first, it used to be the first thing that we would do when we would go to the offices, open our systems, and check for what is happening in the industry. And over a period of time, that became a habit. And then that is how the innovations kept on happening. We would get those mailers. So the moment you open your system, you have the first mailer from Exchange for Media that this is the concept. In fact, back then the concept of breaking news, sectorial breaking news happened from the House of Exchange for Media. Even we are one of the largest consumers of mass market products in the whole world. Also, the manufacturers of some of the greatest products are manufactured in India. But do we even know what happens in the process of manufacturing, what happens in the lives of people who create the iconic brands like the brands that we use in our day-to-day lives? So it was exchange for media. I think the single largest contribution is that it has brought to the fore the industry that we consume every single day, one way or the other, right from the soap that you use, to the shampoo that you use, to the transportation systems and to the mobile systems that you use, everything that we use today. What happens behind those products is, I think the familiarity of that was created by Exchange for Media. And, two people, Naval and Anurag, we've known them for such a long time. And the most important part, as Anurag was saying, that there were many people who did that, who tried to replicate the template. There's still people who try and do that. But why is Exchange for Media still relevant and possibly will always remain relevant is the sense of integrity. Till date, I haven't ever made a phone call to Anurag, this is what I need. And I'm sure if I had made that call, that would have been denied. That is the kind of respect that we have for the brand as partners, as people who come from the same fraternity. And he makes it sound so simple today. When he spoke, he was so simple. But it's very difficult to be Anurag and to be able to create what nobody believed in the first place. Back then people thought we are the industry, we don't need to do, we don't need to know. And today I think the most difficult part is to create a brand, a habit, and which is what Exchange for Media and Anurag's team, Naval and everybody else, they've been able to do that. And today it has become an integral part of a marketeer's day-to-day life. Your day possibly begins with a view of what is happening in Exchange for Media. Thank you.
I don't know how to start off after that, but in fact, I'm going to go to each of you then, in the middle. But getting back to the subject, so as he spoke about experiential, so now it has become sort of an integral part of brands creating an emotional sort of connect with their consumers, saying we will be there for you, you are in our thoughts and stuff. So how do you see that playing out on the field? Because it is experiential. So Shradha, could we start with you?
I think experiential marketing is a great way not just to introduce your product, but also to introduce the aspiration and lifestyle around it. The three ways of doing experiential marketing, how we put it together, is the 3 Ps. First is permanent, right? Permanent structures means how you create tourist attractions with it. India is very far in those, but we still have a few of them, like Kidzania, right? It's a perfect example of how a Kinder Joy will explain how did we make this chocolate, right? Or a Nexa will explain how our cars being created, right? Or how you can experience driving at that center. The second one is to do with properties. Like even we heard about properties being created by Dainik, right? And we were talking about properties that can be created like Lakme Fashion Week, or we create properties like Airtel Delhi Half Marathon. And the third one is pop-ups, where you do one of those for a particular event and then you move on to it. But all these 3 are able to help you in terms of driving a lot of affinity towards the brand, because now you're living the brand. And in totality, if you look at it today, with so many products, how many ads are we exposed to in a day? Any guesses? In a day, how many number of ads are you exposed to?
Many.
The number is actually 6,000 to 10,000 ads in a day. Now imagine if that's the number you are exposed to, how are you imagining loyalty coming in from these consumers, right? They forget about you. That's why Facebook and Google are making so much money, because you want to drive recall also with them. And hence, such kind of experiential events help you in driving loyalty, community. And that's where the epitome of experiential marketing lies.
All right, lovely. Thank you so much. And yes.
Yeah, thanks, Shradha. I think that was a wonderful insight. I come from a little bit of an academic background, so my perspectives are going to be rooted a little more in academics than, the practical experiences. And when I kept on thinking about what is it that brands can do to forge a stronger emotional brand, my first thing was, why are emotions so important for us? And I think they practically dominate every sphere of our life and every interaction with the world. So a little bit of fun facts I want to share with you out here is, when you talk about your emotional brain, which drives pretty much every buying decision, we have inherited our emotional brain from the mammals, which is a very primitive aspect of our brain compared to your rational brain, which is your thinking brain. And that's precisely the reasons why emotions dominate pretty much every decision. वो जो कहते हैं हम लोग दिल दिमाग पे भारी होता है, वो इसकी वजह से भारी होता है. But marketeers who are able to leverage this aspect and build that science of emotions as part of their core marketing strategy are the ones who are able to forge these stronger emotional brands and can, further build onto it. So, for example, again going back to, I'm a doctoral researcher myself, and I do believe in evidence-based decision making. There was a beautiful study that was conducted by Harvard, and which talks about various kinds of emotional motivators, and they have done this longitudinal study over different consumer segments, different industry domains, and over a period of time. They came up with more than 100 emotional motivators. To give you some examples, are things like, I want to succeed, or, feeling secure. Or, for example, the millennials, the emotional motivators that millennials talk about are something very unique. For example, is creating a social impact, or protecting the environment, the person that I want to be. Now, brand marketeers who understand that and are able to weave those motivators as part of their strategy and then implement that through an immersive experience, a multi-sensory immersive experience for their buyers are the ones who really succeed. And this is something which is done fantastically by organizations like Apple. I think Apple has done a phenomenal job of doing this. One of the other examples which I personally, which has impressed me is a shoe brand which is targeting millennials, and it's a US brand. The brand message that the communication from the brand comes across in such a way that for every pair of shoe that you buy, we will donate one pair to the destitute and the needy children in Cambodia. And look at the way they communicate this across to their potential consumers. So I, as a consumer, I'm walking into the store of this particular brand, and even before I decide to make a decision to buy this brand, I would get a VR headset through which I'm transported into the digital world of Cambodia, and I actually experience the kind of joy that these kids are, experiencing through the purchase of my shoe. I'm a millennial, and this brand is targeting the younger generation. So they are directly talking to my motivators, my emotional motivators, which is I want to create a social impact, okay, through my buying decision or through my purchase decision. Now that is met, and plus I'm experiencing the joy and the happiness which the kids are sharing. And boy, don't you think that's going to forge a lifetime of emotional bond with your brand? And I think people who are able to understand that and give an immersive, buying experience to their consumers are the ones who forge a stronger brand. And we've kind of seen that. We see that Google doing it and the larger organizations doing it. So that was my little take on, what is it that brands can do to.
I think the ladies have sort of articulated it quite well. There's hardly anything for me to add, unless is there anything left over by the ladies that I could possibly say.
Oh no, so we're going to do it like, backwards and forwards. So the next question is going to start with you.
So I think Indians have been the pioneers of exploiting the emotional quotient when it comes to brand, and largely we know there are only two sort of brands that exist. The brands that we need in our day-to-day life and the brands that we aspire to own, and that requires a different approach altogether. You have to push yourself to get there. But largely, I think Indians have done quite well in terms of creating that fitment of using the emotions as a identifier when it comes to listing. So for example, if I'm from Kashmir and if I'm in a food store and at the section of fruits, it is instinctively that I will probably be drawn to an apple. Now, what kind of an apple? There will be we grew up watching about 22 varieties of apples. So what kind of apple will I get there, and the costing and all of that put together. I think Indians have done that quite well, where we still, I think what I would want to see a change is the service part of it. While we are very good at articulating the emotional connect between the consumer and the brand, we're equally bad. We're perhaps the worst in the world when it comes to service. Hindustani बेचने में सबसे अच्छा है वो the moment the bill is cut and then that's it, the umbilical cord is cut, then you are at the mercy of so many third party and it's an experience also, probably if that is called an experiential marketing, whether it comes in that or not, but then you discover कि अच्छा ये तो third party है, ये तो fourth party है, ये उसका है, इसको 3 दिन लगेंगे, इसको 4 दिन लगेंगे. So I think, which is where people still look at India. When you look at the brand and when you look at the kind of work, we are doing phenomenal work. I think 90% of the ad world is captured by Indians in terms of the creativity, in terms of the acceptance by intelligentsia, the kind of awards that we win, the kind of recognition that Indian brains have. But what about the consumer experience in terms of the brand servicing? And which is why people still look at India as an affordable brand destination. यहाँ media सबसे ज़्यादा इसलिए क्योंकि सस्ता है. इसलिए नहीं कि अच्छा है, सस्ता है, मैन पावर क्योंकि सबसे सस्ता है, प्रोडक्शन क्योंकि सबसे सस्ता है, लेबर क्योंकि सस्ता है. एंड आई थिंक दिस सस्ता somewhere it overall, if you were to do a survey and compare the purchase, the brand experience when it comes to purchase and the brand experience that is post purchase, there will be huge, and in my lifetime I've seen there is absolutely huge delta between the two. I think that's the kind of work we still need to do. We don't do that.
And in the interest of contrarianism, now that we've spoken about emotions, let's go to the science part of it. Because now experiential, like a huge part of it is technology. You know, whether it's AR, VR, whether it's, you know, the metaverse is now also coming up, you know, Web3 technologies. So how do you see all of this sort of informing the experiential market?
Absolutely. I think this is, that is the future. You see, what is the biggest problem in India? We have a parking problem. The biggest problem that we have is parking is a symbolic representation of so many problems that we have in terms of the distance that I have to travel to get to a brand. Whether it is a home, whether it is a television set, whether it is anything, which is where we see, you know, the online online opportunities today, various brands who are coming in to service that. Overall, I think it is very difficult for an Indian to go to his next purchase, to see that television set. It is not just that, you know, there won't be a television set close by. There is a problem of parking. There's a problem of so many other things. There's a problem of timing. You know, Indians are the most, you know, in terms of taxation is of course one part that all of us know. We're the highest dual tax country. But in terms of working, आपको सुबह 10 बजे अगर आप ऑफिस में अवतरित नहीं हो गए तो पेनल्टी लगेगी. हमारे साथ भी होता है, you know, so it happens to most of us. So we are heavily taxed, stressed consumer, where it is, you know, you get that one weekend to sort of to do something. So the billion-dollar choice is whether you want to spend that time for your happiness, with your family, with your friends, with your sport, or to do a purchase. Now, for example, in real estate, people today don't buy real estate close by. When I'm saying people don't buy, I mean exceptionally. Generally, people go out because they're in a rental and they want to buy a home which comes at a certain cost. That certain cost is not available in your friendly neighborhood. That will be on the outskirts. Now imagine if I live at a place called X and I have to go to the outskirts of Gurgaon, which is where possibly affordability, or Noida, some sector of Noida, where affordability will fit me. It is a day's job just to go and see that, which is where I think technology will come in. It has already come in. It is right knocking at our doors. In fact, we sold one of our projects through a metaverse. Within 6 hours, we sold out the entire project. There was no site visit. I mean, we translated that. So I feel technology will create an experience at your doorstep. You know, for example, I keep on going back to, for the sake of relevancy, a real estate. When you go and buy your home, what do you see there? There's nothing. Sites are very uninspiring, very unsafe. There is dust everywhere. There's nothing. So basically, where do you place your decision? You place your decision by looking at the sample flat. That is also not actually a sample flat. That is even not to a scale, but that gives you an impression. Now imagine, just to see that impression, you spend an entire day, you spend so much money and so much of time that you could have spent otherwise. Imagine if I give you the same experience, many 100 times better experience at your location, which is what over a period of time technology will do. Today we're talking about things like metaverse and all. I think that's all right. But I'm personally fascinated by a technology called the holographic technology. I mean, we have seen 3D holographic technology being used for a very long time. I've used it about 10 years back. And about 10 years back, I was doing a pilot for Mercedes. And I was telling them that, Boss, how many people visit your showroom? It's minuscule number of people who visit a Mercedes showroom. Most of us visit a Mercedes showroom or a high-end, a Phantom from outside. We are not there because most of us are not there in that category to buy that. Imagine if I were to create a 3D holographic experience center for a high-end automobile, for a truck, Ashok Leyland. I mean, when I was the business head of Hinduja Group, I was working on a pilot where, where do you park a truck? Where do you create that experience? Nowhere. But by using technology, I can actually open the bonnet, I can show him the engine, I can show him the differentials, why this technology is better, why, this is how it works, add to, the elements of sound, stuff like that. There's so much technology can do, but overall, making consumer experience simpler, which is what I think we've been discussing, to keep it simple and make it more effective.
I think Ashish pointed the nail on the head very rightly and brought about couple of pain points when it comes to buying essentially some of the logistical challenges which we all face, and considering that we live in cities like Mumbai and Delhi. So that's the biggest pain point. Then, ease of convenience of shopping, that's another, which is what technology kind of, bridges that gap. Now, with so much of technological advancement that's happening, today we have garnered enough of computing power to be able to give immersive virtual experiences to our consumers, which your brain actually perceives them to be real. And that is what essentially, AR, VR, or for that matter, XR and MR, is what is kind of bringing to your table. They are not just merely diffusing the border between your physical and the digital world, but they are actually merging the two worlds to immerse you in a realm of imagination. And what Ashish was mentioning about, giving you all a multisensory experience of experiencing your products through a sense of smell, touch, feel, etc., etc. So I think that's where it stands out. Adding to what Ashish said, so for example, if you were to do buying a piece of furniture, for yourself, just the whole 9 yards of going to a furniture mall and then trying to visualize how this is going to look in my living room, whether the color is going to match my decor, etc., etc. IKEA, companies like IKEA have used augmented reality in such a beautiful way that you just use a phone, point it to the piece of furniture, and you visualize the entire setup right in front of you. And you can have different choices, you can change the color, you can change the design, etc. So, I think this is a phenomenal advancement, and this is going to impact, and people have already started doing that. IKEA is one such great example. There are multiple examples. In fact, in the domain that we operate in, which is sustainability domain, I know of people who are using VR and AR to kind of transport people and actually make them experience how the green zone is going to look like. In fact, in my organization itself, I'm toying with these kind of, marketing initiatives where I'm able to transport people through augmented reality or virtual reality and make them experience of how this world is going to look like. So I think these are here to stay. And I think they've diffused, not only shifted the boundaries, I think they have given us a boundless experience of the imaginative world. So I think that's where this is a paradigm shift that is happening.
And so how do you see it from the brand perspective?
So,
Sorry, the agency perspective, my bad, yeah.
That's okay. So I think from an example perspective, like IKEA is a very good example, to be very honest. I remember how they just created they created a space where they had the entire layout in actual measurements, and then they put a VR headset on you to experience it, right? In fact, I remember I was speaking to an interior designer, and his rates just increased when he said, I can just use Metaverse and transport you to your to your shop or to your home, and this is the cost of that. So that's a very good example. Another one that I think from an agency perspective, and while Ashish was talking, one of the ideas that came to my head, see, technology is very good in terms of making you experience stuff, but how do you personalize it? Now imagine Ashish created a sample flat, and he wants you to just buy it right away, yeah? How do we improve conversion rates? So imagine at the enter of the sample flat, if I'm able to just log in with my Instagram handle, My pictures will be picked up by an API, and all the photos, or basically the placeholders in the house, is just converted into my pictures. That sample fat now belongs to me, right? And that experience will become another level. So I think personalization using technology could be a really different angle in how, as an agency, I would like to see.
Okay. And building off what you said and going into reality, see what I did there? Basically, you know, because you sort of are investing in all these experiential, you know, experiences, for lack of a better word, how do you see that actually translating back into ROI? Like, if I could start with Ashish, because, you know, those are big lifetime purchases. Like, when you create an experiential experience, like how do you see that sort of translating in numbers?
It's a whole new world, and I think you might be surprised that my experience tells me it is far easier, far economical to deploy innovations. Uh, I was just talking to a colleague of mine yesterday, and we had an agency come, and I was telling them that, I want to do this, can you do this for me? Which is that I want to have you check the flat, and I want to show you how the view will be once, for example, if you're on the 14th floor, and what will be the view from the 14th floor? How does it work on the 14th floor? And there will be somebody, for example, there will be an Ashish who will show them the kitchen, and I will make him online make his first cup of tea in his kitchen. Yeah. That would be maybe 5 years from now, 4 years from now, and add sensory to it, and the click of the gas, and the crackle of the water, and the tea being made, and the aroma and all of that. Now, these are economies of scale, and unfortunately Indians have an aversion to using new technology. But if you deploy the technology, as I was saying, that we sold a project at perhaps a fraction of the cost that we would have otherwise, because when we manage our books of accounts, it's very unusual, and Indian manages his books of accounts in a very unusual way. When you take a cost of sales, you perhaps will forget to add the salary part to it, you will forget to add the cost of tea and coffee to it. So there are so many costs that we exclude just because we want to show a certain rosy picture, but that's not correct. So if you use technology efficiently, your cost of the expenditure will dramatically come down. Having said that, if you exactly know what kind of an experience and what is the outcome and how do you want to do it, but yes, technology you also need to be wise enough to know the scalability. Don't just create a technological product that will not serve the longer purpose. I believe create templates for future. Keep building on them.
Mm-hmm. And so and I'm going to go back into this because ROI is these metrics which we all have to, so you're doing something sustainable, but I think for a lot of agencies and stuff, it's a lot more immediate that you need to show it right now. So how do you sort of show the ROI?
I think if I enter with a proposal on this, both of them will ask me first, tell me the KPI. I'm not putting my bucks on the table if you don't give me the KPI, right? There are multiple ways of doing experiential marketing KPI. The first one is to do with PR. Mm-hmm. A lot of experiential marketing drives good PR value because you're doing it at one location. It's not scale, right? If you look at the last year, 2023, which we're about to close, PR buzz was the biggest ROI that people were driving through experiential marketing, through unique billboards. Zomato has created its own brand identity along with the kind of billboards that they've done, right? We just saw the price slash billboard of Myntra, right? Mm-hmm. Or doing a lot of OTT series and Bollywood films have been using that very smartly. So one is PR chatter. Second is because you're building a community and you're getting people on a particular place, we all enjoy our social media. हम सबको डालना है आज सुबह क्या हुआ? I'm sure we'll all also put a post on LinkedIn that we were here. And we would like to talk about it, right? So the conversations that we get out of any kind of experiential marketing is the second KPI. And the third one is to do with ROAS, right? So in case the experiential marketing was about driving sales or driving leads, then you can talk about how much ROAS will you be able to get out of that investment, depending on the kind of sales or the lower funnel that you're able to get out of it. So these are three big KPIs for experiential marketing.
And on the other side of the scale, I mean, because it's sustainable, it's something long term. So how do you sort of show that ROI is sort of, something that you are going to get an ROI, even though it may not be as immediate?
Yeah, so we really don't have very immediate quantifiable matrices as what she spoke about, But our work is, probably to do with a very, very long-term kind of a change and a very fundamental, rudimentary kind of a change. So we are more at a stage we are just kind of creating awareness rather than really measuring ROI and through matrices.
Okay.
And it's all about giving experiences, because this is about the work that we do. It's all about creating that psychological change at an individual level, and then that getting percolated down to
behavioral shift,
the behavioral shift at the community level.
Okay.
So for us, it's all about making them envision what it looks like, and then kind of shifting, so to say, their ways of living, or for that matter, their ways of doing business as well. And that's where I believe experiential marketing, even for our products, kind of really, really works wonders. And that's a great way to communicate a lot of messages that we want to communicate.
Right.
It makes you feel good, basically, as an individual.
Absolutely.
And I mean, coming back to, like now consumers are spoiled for choice, and everyone talks about the choice part, but I would like to talk about the spoiled part, because now we just expect the market to evolve with whatever we need, whatever we want. So even though experiential is a new thing, like now people are like, what's the next experience? So is that something you guys are looking at, in the back rooms? Would you like to?
Me? Yes, I mean, I'm quite passionate about creating a parallel sales approach to the commodities. There are many challenges, it's easier said than done, but I think it is doable. I think I've seen that happening in the recent years. Use of technology, there will be the basic barrier to that is the traditional sales mindset. I think the first transformation that has to happen is to accept that there has to be, there can be, and there will be someday or the other a whole new way of making your hand reach out for that wallet, the sales to happen. Today, most of the sales that happens, it is still driven by the standard mindset. You need to do it in a certain way, and there will be a barrier to that. But that's not going to hold for long, because in terms of the volumes that we can sell is far different than what you can do using traditional sales methodologies. Use of technology, technological interventions, whether you call them experiential marketing, or I just say that use of technology in simplifying the consumer experience, allowing the person to experience the product in a simpler, efficient, easier way than he is doing it now, and making the purchase far easier. And managing it technologically, it is easier. Once I'm engaging with a consumer on a technological platform, I can take him across the spectrum of services. I can upsell, I can cross-sell, I can take him to a payment gateway, I can take him to the loan section, I can take him anywhere I want. That's not something not that you can't do it, but that will be time consuming. Imagine the kind of mammoth man hour that I'm dedicating just to do that. But technology allows me to do more in an efficient way, and the volumes will be far different. Today, the kind of volumes that we are looking at, the whole consumption pattern will dramatically alter if you were to have a mindset of sales through innovations, which is not happening today. So I think the biggest barrier to that is because the decision makers today, the second line of management, the decision makers, they do not come with that demonstrated mindset.
I think, as Ashish rightly pointed out, the adoption of technology is one of the biggest barriers that we're facing, not at just an end user level, but right, at the top of the ladder as well. However, being able to communicate the benefits of it in terms of, for example, she spoke about, Facebook generating the number of leads. I believe that in terms of the data that you are able to generate today, the sheer amount of data that is available for you to take appropriate decisions. Technology provides you all the relevant tools, the big data analytics that we have, or for that matter, artificial intelligence also, which is becoming so simpler to use. If you're able to utilize that, you actually are able to get on to actionable insights, which can then get factored in your decision making. That is a level of awareness. However, that level of awareness is not really there today. And that's a big challenge for us. And as Ashish was rightly pointing out, the mindset. I think it all has to start from here. But I guess it's a progression. And as we see things around ourselves evolving, if you look at the history of mankind, you'll see that right from the industrial age, we have, gone on to the information age and then the digital age. And now we are talking about an imagination age, which is something which we had not even fathomed. So today, with this kind of an experiential marketing, you are able to give immersive experiences to your consumers onto things which were probably just left in the realm of their imagination. And today, you're transporting that into reality and making them visualize it, But that messages and that experiences, unless and until it's made familiar, it is a challenge for us.
Right.
So I think the answer is very simple. It has to be, right? Today, from a perspective of future, I don't think a marketing head or a CMO or CEO will settle for something which is not futuristic. So an agency point of view is that they're always looking forward to what's next in technology, right? From an adoption perspective, I'll tell you a small anecdote, and this just recently happened. A client was sitting with us, and he was like, यार, किसी गोरे को rules दो ना, तो वो पढ़ता है प्रॉपरली और फिर एक सवाल पूछेगा मुश्किल से, ठीक है? इंडियन को रूल बुक दो ना, तो वो कहता है भैया आप ही बता दो ना. So we are not used to going through instructions by ourselves, right? We believe in that conversational, that experience that you bring in from another person together. So from that perspective now, I think experience is there to stay. The challenge of adoption will happen, but like we and in metros copy West, and then finally tier 2, tier 3 copies us. I think that will follow. It's just a matter of time that things will happen. Like another thing from a technology perspective, I can't imagine my mom or a person of my mom's age using Blinkit or a Zepto to order something. But this Diwali, she went to the market. As soon as she stepped into the market of Malviya Nagar, I don't know how many of you are aware about that place, it's very congested, right? She just went back in the car and came home and said ki Blinkit pe na patte bhi order kar de, supari bhi order kar de, phool bhi order kar de. So at technology you're available and you don't want to barter your convenience at the stake of it.
Okay.
And hence it will stay.
And so this is my favorite question in every session because I'm a writer and I have to tell stories, but now I can ask my panelists to tell stories. So could you each provide like a case study where you have seen experiential, how it started, how it played out, and what learning outcomes came from it? So Ashish, would you like to start?
It's going to be a long story, but I think the most recent one, if I stick to that, and before that, she reminded me of my own time. I saw one day, there was this huge box that I found on my desk. My office used to be here in Nehru Place, my first office. I said, what the hell is this? He said, it's a computer. Ab is pe kaam hoga sab. And I remember we spent about good 4 or 5 months. And my boss used to be in Bombay, Mr. Imam. I used to send him those notes criticizing the very use of of this computer. I could possibly, when I think about it, I laugh. I used to write, those innovative excuses. Sir, isse ye problem hota hai, isse ye problem hota hai, isse ye problem hota hai. It was always a problem statement for next 6 months. And to think of it, how things have eventually happened for us. The online experiential center that we created for one of our projects that people thought could not happen. And there was no site visit, nobody ever went to a site, and we were able to offload the entire project in just about, I think, 6 hours, maybe less. And people really thought that, yes, jaake, from the initial thought was, yeah, people want to see what they want to purchase. And I mean, there was a process, but to cut the long story short, I think it worked. And I think that is how the future sales will happen, because eventually for certain category of products, because the product does not exist. Even if you buy a television, I think Indians consume maximum number of IT and telecom products, but we are the only consumer base that doesn't know what is happening in the technology. This also reminds me of the first experiential business that we started was way back, I think in 2002, 2003, much before the likes of Chromas and the kind of centers that you saw. We had a company. I had launched a company called Agrani Switch. So the concept was that when Indians go to buy a bread, we have 1000 questions. We know कि ऐसे दबा के देखना चाहिए, ऐसे होना चाहिए, ये देखो, वो देखो. But and that. Let's say that time the cost was 10 rupees, but then if you have to buy a mobile phone, you don't buy a mobile phone and ask questions. You go purely because somebody has purchased it, you read a review, you like the ad, and therefore but you don't know how that mobile phone works. So the whole concept was when you walk into an Agrani Switch, you will be first profiled, and then an officer, an experienced officer would be assigned to you. He will, without a bias, tell you what kind of a phone should you buy, and eventually then leave the choice to him. So, I mean, between the two, it's 2002 and 2023 at the end of it. So I think that is how it is panned out.
I honestly don't have a story to tell, but I think from my own personal experiences, the way as a consumer, I can tell you the way the expectations have shifted. So, for example, when I was going to buy a home for myself, and I come from Mumbai, and you completely understand the real estate scenario in Mumbai, So, and we were wanting to buy a flat in the high rise. So, one of the most important criteria was how is the view outside. And a few years back, if you needed an answer for that, the answer was that it's only in your imagination, right? But this time around, when I went for house shopping, and I could actually see a drone-based view of how the view would look like from a particular floor of your apartment. So I think, and that pretty much helped me in making the decision much quicker and faster. Of course, there were other factors of consideration as well. That's not the only point. But that's how things have shifted, and this can be extrapolated to various other aspects of life. So from my side, that's one. And then the second, which I was we were just discussing, before we came on, my 10-year-old son is out here, and he said when he heard that I'm supposed to be in Delhi, and he said that, Mama, I want to come with you. And I was a little surprised. I said, I mean, why would you want to come? I mean, it's going to be a boring, conference. You can't from his perspective. And so, I mean, we were just joking, Shradha and myself, that see, this is experiential marketing, because, I mean, he's a Gen Z or whatever, I don't know what you would call when he grows up, alpha, beta, whatever, but they have already started wanting to experience what it is all about much before their time arrives, and that's how the world is going to change. And yeah, so.
And Shradha, you have many stories, I'm sure.
I have
which
so
is your
many.
favorite?
I'll tell you a couple of latest ones, okay? Have you guys heard about the Nothing University from 5-Star? So they created a Nothing University where you just go and do nothing. So you go and you go through rooms, and you're sitting in a classroom and you're doing nothing. Then you're sitting in an exam room and you're doing nothing. And then you go to a practical room and you're nothing. I think that's a great example of just showcasing what 5-Star values are all about. And it's a tourist destination. So it becomes a place for you to go. So I am looking forward to go and experience the Nothing University. From a campaign perspective, we did this for Nexa, where we wanted to launch Ignis. And I remember this conversation very categorically, where the brand manager said, Shradha, तुम लोग क्या करोगे यार event पे? मतलब तुम लोग 2-4 posts बना देना digital पे, हो जाएगा काम. And I was like, just leave it to us, right? And what we did, Axwell was performing that time. And one single KPI given to us was drive more and more tweets and conversation. So we said, why don't we create an opportunity to generate more tweets, right? And we use technology. We put 2 large LED screens across the stage, and we asked people to tweet. And every time we hit 1,000 tweet, we had streamers and confetti blasters on the stage. And through IoT, they used to blast.
Oh, okay.
Right? So every 1,000 tweet, the score used to blast. So that's another way of using experiential marketing. And this is something that I want to do. I belong to a Madhu family. I've gone to so many places, regional places, religion places, it's not even funny, right? My dadi used to take me to this place which had 108 shivlings. So you had to go and chadhao everything to shivling. And I used to think, so much milk is getting wasted every time, right? This could have been given to some poor people who are not drinking milk. So I proposed this to one Pujari ji, and I'm also speaking to another e-service puja app about this, where I'm saying, what if we create technology where you just press a button, the milk circulates itself, the process of putting it on a shivling is done, but at the same time, a new brand pack is donated to a poor guy.
That's lovely.
Right? So I think there are multiple such stories which can be used from a technology perspective to drive experience, as well as, like you said, make you feel good at certain time. And that's how I think as some of them.
Lovely, great. So this was a fantastic session. I wish we would have time for questions, but I think we're already running behind. You can always bother them without me comparing during the rest of the afternoon. Thank you so much.